Welcome to the United States of Tiffany. Our commentary offers a humorous take on wrestling. Please note, we're not bullying or attacking the wrestlers. We're engaging with the choreographed sport and its storylines. Our jokes and observations are about the characters and storylines, not the real people behind them. Tourists and citizens alike, welcome. Enjoy the show, and remember, it's all in good fun.
I know you guys are mad at me for yesterday, and I'm so sorry. Listen, yesterday my nephews came over, and I was watching them, and I was hanging out with the hubs yesterday. So there, I just lost track of time, and it was too late for me to go live. So I'm sorry, but I'm here now. See, in the flesh. Yes? No? Okay. It's all right. I understand if you're angry. You deserve that. You've earned the right to be mad at your auntie. Yes? Okay. Auntie is sorry. Auntie loves you. She does. Okay? I hope you all enjoyed the Super Bowl as much as I did. It was so much fun watching the show, enjoying the music. I didn't understand a word of what he was saying, but I didn't need to. Music transcends language, and it was a beautiful moment. And I loved it. It was everywhere. He had the American flag out there, he had the flag for Brazil, Peru, Puerto Rico. It was everywhere and it was everything, and we loved every minute of it. I saw a clip of what happened with the Turning Point concert. It was about as it was about as much as I expected. Kid Rock singing songs that's about 30 years old out there jumping and dancing around, wasn't singing none of his real music. Just look at a hot mess, child. It was messy as fuck. And I was just like, oh, it must be embarrassing for you to be the representative of the racists. Okay. Now, Turning Point USA need to be embarrassed. They should be embarrassed. Fox News sponsored it. So did Kevin Sorbo, Sylvester Stallone. Who else did? Scott Baio, idiot. All of them stupid. All of them sponsored this whack ass concert that they did. Had them playing fucking bitch. It's the Super Bowl, and you got them out there playing fucking America the Beautiful on the guitar with shitty pyrotechnics behind it. It's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing to be you. It's so embarrassing. The rest of us was out and about having a good time listening to Bad Bunny tear up the stage with all of the people that he had out there being represented. Everybody was having a good time watching it. And y'all was too busy in your feelings, mad and pissy about a Super Bowl performance that literally was really about love and just having a good time. Now he didn't make much of a big political statement, but he made sure his people were seen, which is what you're supposed to do, beach. It was a good time. If you missed the Super Bowl performance, I promise you missed something spectacular. It was uniquely Bad Bunny. It was beautiful, and the people in the audience was vibing. You could hear how well they went off in that stadium. And online, when you look online all around, of course you're gonna have some people saying weirdo shit because they have to be weird. But the consensus from what I saw is that everybody enjoyed the performance. And Bad Bunny looked great. So congratulations to you, Bad Bunny. But I heard out here in these streets that Bad Bunny was returning to the E very soon because the WWE is going to Puerto Rico again and Bad Bunny wants to be there. And you know that's messy, child. We live for a little mess. We live for a little mess. So I can't wait because I love Bad Bunny and him being a part of WWE. He's always done an amazing job, and he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, celebrity performer for WWE of all time. And he's one of the only celebrities that, to me, went full on hard with WWE and didn't shy away from doing anything and had so much respect for the sport. And they had so much respect for him in return, and I can't wait. If he coming back, yes, give it to me. Give it all to me. Anyways, let me go to these. Come here. I put my glasses on, child. Because I'm blind. Whew. I need to go get a new prescription. Okay. Hello, hello. How are you? Kelly, I have some bad news. My man's out of action due to hernia surgery. Brian Breaker? Brian Breaker had to have hernia surgery? I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, but that explains why they pivoted. That's wild. I didn't. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. Like for real. I loved his performance. Yes, period, bad buddy. It was so dope. It was so dope. Such a dope performance. I loved it. It was so much fun to watch. I was just waiting for Apple Music to put the playlist up so I can get it. Because I do have some of Bad Bunny's albums, but I ain't gonna lie, I'm not all the way up on all of Bad Bunny's music. Bunny's backlash interest was so hard. To this day, there's very few people who can fuck with that interest. Nobody got that kind of reaction. Not even niggas, not even the superstars that be in their hometown get that reaction. Knew he was coming out. Yeah, and even CM Punk in Chicago don't get that type of reaction. That was nuts. The whole fucking country, the whole goddamn territory was shut down for him. I don't want that level of fame ever in life. Ever. Ever. I do not want that level of fame. But he handles it well, I'll say that. Anyways, I hope you guys are having a wonderful Black History Month. Because today we're going to learn about some Black history. Some Black ass history. Okay? I told you, it's reading and chill, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to read a book. Aren't you excited? Reading is fundamental, ladies and gentlemen, and you must read. You must read in order to understand. That is the reason why they're banning books, so that they can cripple us. And you have to fight back. You got to start reading and collecting some of those so called banned books. hmm While you can go, wiggle on over there and get you this book called Black as Fuck History by Michael Carey. Okay? And it's a New York Times bestseller. We're going to have a good time reading it. Now, it is a nonfiction type of book, but it do have some good moments in it. I think you guys will enjoy it. Well, go get your drink, go relax yourself, chill out, you know, get you some snacky doos. She said, yes, we gonna learn something today, period. I was so sad that I didn't go to the last backlash in Puerto Rico, but I want to go back to PR. I hope you do. I depressed now, depressed and sad now. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. And we're gonna learn some Black history. You can get yourself something to eat and sit here and chill with us, and don't think about that and learn some things. Or you can go back and watch some live videos that I did previously that are more about wrestling, and you can listen to that. Or you can go and listen to me talk about Becky's book, the live or the videos for that is up. You can listen to that. We got a lot of stuff over here that you can listen to take your mind off some things if you're depressed. But I would encourage you to stay over here and listen to Black history. Because Black history is American history. Yes, I was born here, but the last time I went, I was pretty much a baby. Okay. All right. So this book is called Black History, Black AF History, the Unwhitewashed History of America by Michael Harriot. Oh, the Seahawks, let's go! They scored the game. Yeah. I love me a little contact, Petey. I love it. All right. Should we start with the introduction? I think it's best that we start with the introduction. Damn, y'all ain't gonna come back even if you tried. The Seahawks win the Super Bowl, baby. Seahawks is going off. Period. All right. Everyone ready? Good. We got a little bit of lo-fi music I'm gonna play in the background, so you can kind of relax you a little bit, and then we're just gonna read. Okay. It's already playing in the background right now, but I'm gonna turn it up just a tad. There we go. I think I might switch it off to daydreaming. Yeah, that's a little bit more relaxing. All right. So let me go to make sure I can see y'all comments in case somebody says something or my mic goes out. All right. So here we go. I remember when I discovered America. It happened around 8 p.m. on November 4th, 1980. The night Ronald Reagan was elected president. I was on my knees crying, sending desperate pleas to my Lord and Savior Jesus when I was interrupted by my grandmother summoning me. Perhaps she had discovered my sister's candy stash. Maybe she needed me to fix the vertical hold on the floor model television. Or, as any child who grew up in a Black home could tell you, maybe she just needed a cold glass of water. Child. That was every grandmother, but for me, it was more of my dad. My dad, can I go downstairs and get me a cup of ice water? I think give me one of them cups of ice water out the refrigerator down there. Thank you so much. Anyways, when she saw the tears streaming down my face, she asked what was wrong. I confessed to one of the cardinal sins of my household. I was listening to grown folks talking. I told her I couldn't understand how she was so calm when our worst fears had been realized. I knew that we were going to have to hightail it to Canada now and told her she should just join me in prayer as I asked Jesus to protect and guide us as we drove to our new home across the border. Between sobs, I asked her if we were waiting for daybreak to leave. An evening getaway seemed safer to me, even though my mom had terrible night vision. From the look on her face, it was clear that she had no idea what I was talking about. I spilled the beans about how I overheard her tell my mother a few weeks ago, if Reagan is elected, He'll send black people back to the cotton fields. That sent my young mind spinning. I didn't know how to pick cotton. Would I have to give up my dream of playing point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers? And my future side hustle as a tambourine player in Earth, Wind, and Fire to get cotton picking degree in picking cotton? Plus, I could read. And you know what happens to slaves who could read? I told her not to worry about me though. I had already packed a bag with my favorite underoos, some corduroy pants, and a few sweatshirts. According to the 1979 edition of the World Book Encyclopedia, Canada winters could be quite brutal. After my grandmother and mother finished explaining sarcasm between guffaws, I felt relieved, albeit a little embarrassed. I still wasn't quite sure if they were trying to make me feel better about our impending enslavement, but I took their word that I didn't have to learn the secret language of embedded in Negro spirituals. Just in case, I gave them a hand drawn map of what I thought was the best escape route. If all else failed, we could simply follow the drinking gorge, which of course was codenamed the Big Dipper. I volunteered to show them how to find the Big Dipper in the night sky because you never know if the fugitive slave catchers had an APB out on our canary yellow station wagon. While they had no interest in learning about Underground Railroad based astronomy, my grandmother did have one question. Mikey, where did you learn all this stuff from, boy? She asked. Now I was confused. I couldn't tell if she was impressed or perturbed. She always had told me that there is no stupid questions, but she was coming dangerously close to providing her adage wrong. Where do you think I learned it? I replied. The middle room. In 1952, James and Marvell Harriet built a house for their 8 children in Hartsville, South Carolina, a scant 22 miles from the forced labor camp where James S. Bradley enslaved 253 human beings, including Marvell's great great grandfather, Irvin. The Harriet household had 4 bedrooms, one bathroom, a dining room, and a living room you could only enter if you were entertaining company, had obtained written and verbal permission, or if somebody who had the Holy Ghost died. But the best room was in the center of the house. A den style family room that would eventually become known as the middle room. 5 generations of the Harriet family would play, pray, laugh, sing, dance, and learn about the world from the middle room's vantage point. Long before I was born, my grandfather lined the entire middle room with sturdy oak shelves, and over the years to this very day, everyone in the Harriet clan has deposited their books in there. It rivals almost any independent bookstore, with some libraries with stacks and stacks of books on topics from science fiction to history. It also contained a state of the art television set, turntable, and a high five 8 track tape desk that mostly played James Cleveland albums. Okay. James Cleveland is a famous gospel artist. If you don't know who James Cleveland is, I'll show you who he is. I believe he's dead. He's been dead for a while. But my father used to listen to James Cleveland. In fact, we had all his albums up until he died. But I can show you who James Cleveland is. Hold on. James Cleveland, you usually hear about James Cleveland in the same conversations as you would hear guys like Rance Allen and various other gospel artists. But he was best known for songs like, let me put it up on the screen so you can see. So this is James Cleveland, and he was best known for his songs Lord Help Me to Hold Out. That was a song that I remember learning as a kid, I remember hearing it in our house. The name of Jesus, strong God, give thanks. You are awesome. God provides. Won't let go. They scored. Oh, these are just some of his greatest hits, but you get the picture. This is gospel music. Hello, this is gospel. Well, the music you're listening to, it's a lo-fi song. Sorry if I'm mixing it up. But this guy that's on the screen, this is James Cleveland. He was mentioned in the book that I'm reading. If you're just not coming in, listen, we're not talking about wrestling. We're talking about Black history. Okay. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna ignore you. I'm just gonna ignore that. Give you a chance to kind of clean yourself up. But we're learning about Black history through this book called Black as Fuck History today. And we're reading. So if this is not something that you want to hear, all right. Right. Okay. Happy Sunday to you, Daniel. Okay. Listen, if you're just now coming over here, we are reading the book Black as Fuck History, the unwhitewashed story of America. If you don't want to hear that, that's absolutely fine. You guys can click off the video. But I'm not going to entertain a bunch of bullshit today. I'm just not. So I'm going to go back to reading the book. Okay. You guys can listen however you please. If you don't want to stick around, I totally understand. I'm not forcing you to be here. This is for the people who wanted to do reading and chill, which we try to do once or twice a month. So I totally get if you don't want to be here to listen to that. That's absolutely fine. But today we're doing Black as Fuck History. I see we're going to get a lot of trolls. This is about to be a fun time. Any Hoosies. We stopped at James Cleveland, no? Yeah. Let's go back to that sentence and we'll start from there. It says it also contained a state-of-the-art television set, turntable, and hi-fi 8-track tape player that mostly played James Cleveland albums, episodes of Trapper John, MD, and election results. The burnt umber carpet was where I learned how to play Uno, spades, and AC Doocy, the remedial version of backgammon. The middle room was also a stage for family talent shows, a courtroom, and most importantly, the homeroom, study hall, and resource center for all 4 pupils enrolled in Dorothy Harriet Elementary School for Dorothy Harriet's children. When I was a child, my mother chose to homeschool my sisters and I. As an adult, she informed me that my early homeschooled education was an experiment due to her belief that a Black child cannot fully realize their humanity in the presence of whiteness. Although she drilled us on mathematics, grammar, and the Bible, our schooling was primarily self directed, courtesy of the middle room. I read anything and everything, which led to many awkward incidents, like the strange side eye I received at church after I read the autobiography of Malcolm X at 9 years old and began ending every entry sentence with, if it was Allah's will. Oh, you was a messy kid. When I was 12, after reading the science fiction novel The Soul of the Robot, I stumbled across W.E.B. Du Bois's The Souls of Black Folks that couldn't be much different, right? I was scarcely 2 pages in when I read this. After the Egyptian and Indian the Greek and the Roman, the Tech, the Teuton and the Mongolian, the Negro is a sort of seventh son, born with a veil and gifted with second sight in this American world. A world which yields him in no self consciousness, but only lets him see himself through the revelation of the other world. It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness, this sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others, of measuring one's soul by the tape of a world that looks on in amused contempt and pity. One feels his two-ness, an American, a Negro, two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder. The history of the American Negro is the history of this strife, this longing to attain self-conscious manhood, to merge his double self into a better and truer self. In this merging, he wishes neither of the older selves to be lost. It's interesting. W.E.B. Du Bois. I'm gonna need to listen to him. I never heard him before. James Cleveland is a gospel artist. You should look into him. He's an older gospel artist, but a gospel artist indeed. Reading this, my brain fired off a dozen questions. Where was this alternative universe that he had reduced blackness to an afterthought? And through whose eyes did Du Bois see himself? I would later discover the miseducation of the Negro, in which Carter G. Woodson explains that in the American education system, the entirety of Black people's existence is studied only as a problem or dismissed as of little consequence. Du Bois eloquently echoed this sentiment, asking, between me and the other world, there is ever an unasked question, unasked by some through feelings of delicacy, by others through the difficulty of rightly framing it. All nevertheless flutter around it. How does it feel to be a problem? I eventually realized that my middle room education was the inverse of Woodson's miseducated Negro. My mother had reverse engineered a curriculum founded on the words and works of great thinkers like Dorothy B. Porter, Arturo Schomburg, Zora Neale Hurston, and John Edward Bruce, all of whom, in one way or another, are manifestations of Du Bois's mission to manufacture a new measuring tape. I am but a bastard child born with the privilege of wandering into an already constructed house that Du Bois built. The history I discovered in the middle room wasn't just an alternative version of American history. It was the story of an entirely different place, wholly incompatible with the whitewashed mythology enshrined in our collective memory. I have never known that place because that America, in reality, doesn't exist. That story of America is a fantastical, overwrought, and fictive tale. It is a fantasy where Christopher Columbus discovered a land that he never set foot in. It is the story of the pilgrims on the Mayflower building a new nation. It is George Washington's cherry tree and Abraham Lincoln's log cabin. It is the story of slaves who spontaneously teleported themselves here with nothing but strong backs and a brain full of Negro spirituals. It is Betsy Ross's sewing kit and Paul Revere's horse and Thomas Jefferson's pen and Benjamin Franklin's glasses and George Washington's teeth and liberty and justice for all. And it is a history predicated on lies. History can never be objective or unbiased because no matter how hard the storytellers may try, the perception of reality prejudices all stories. The academic field of history is dominated by white men, handicapped by the inability to see whiteness's impact on America's biography. The best historians try to approximate the truth by unbending the collection of funhouse mirrors through which the past has been viewed. But it isn't simply a counterfeit version of history, it is a fable that erases the reflection of an entire people to ensure that the mythology of the heroes lives happily ever after. Because of the middle room, I was not burdened by the unbending funhouse mirror of America's past. For me, the writings of Du Bois, Woodson, and the other Black chroniclers of yesteryear were not counter narratives to a blanched, whitewashed version of a somewhat true story. For me, the America that existed in the middle room is the real America. It is my education. We are the sun, and everything in the history of this nation's existence is simply rotating around the blackness, illuminating our universe. When we are dead, and all the things that ever were have turned to dust, we will not be history. We will be things that once were. A few of us, however, will have lived a life so notable that a white man might deem it worthy of bending his opposable thumb to register our existence into posterity. The best we can hope for is to become a part of white history, because American history is white history, except for this one. This history is black as fuck. So, we're still in our introduction, but we're going to get into it. History unwhitewashed. Something was wrong with me. I was already in a daze. I couldn't sit still. Long before I was eventually diagnosed with the most acute form of attention deficit hyperactive disorder, I was just hyper. Although we now understand that ADHD is a common mental neurodevelopment issue that affects millions of children, I was diagnosed as bad, which is a common thing for a lot of young adult or young children, especially young African American children. Most of the time, ADHD is not caught early enough for young African American children, so it is always often equated to the child being restless, not listening, not understanding, rather than actually equating it to what it is, a neurodivergent symptom. I highly recommend that if any of you are older and you have children who are very young, that you take them to be tested for everything. This will help you catch things early and learn how to teach your child in spite of the issues that he may be plagued with. This will help keep some peace of mind for you so you're not constantly fighting against your child. And it will also help you understand your child better so you don't end up traumatizing your child and causing him more grief for something that he really can't control. That was me, by the way. That wasn't the book. I'm just telling you. Don't be blaming your kid for his mental health. He can't help that. Try to fix it, or at least try to help him work with it. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, back to the book. My mother tried to combat my hyperactivity with diet, forbidding my sisters and me from eating anything that contained red dye number 5 or sugar, except on Fridays, when I could choose between a roll of lifesavers or a pack of chiclets. Ew. Chiclets? That's nasty. Sorry. In fifth grade, I spent months in the Harriet household's version of juvenile house arrest when I was caught tracing my mother's name on an interim report that described me as smart but having trouble following directions. The third deacon in command at church nicknamed me the absent minded professor. Coats were the bane of my childhood existence. I always lost them. I left them on church pews, in cars, and especially at school. And because coats are the most expensive part of the kid's wardrobe, I have received more dressing downs from my mom about coats than anything except my propensity to forget to pull the garbage can to the curb on trash day. If there is a heaven for jackets, it is almost certainly filled with the misplaced winter wear purchased by Dorothy Harriet. I always lost my coat. So in fifth grade, when I begged my mother to buy me a goose down, a feathered filled ski jacket with removable sleeves that had become the latest fashion, of course, she gave me a lecture about how I'd have to suffer frostbite and hypothermia for the next 2 winters if I lost that puffy coat. That day my mother bought that goose down from the Army Navy store was the second happiest day of my sartorial life, exceeded only by the parachute pants and Ghostbusters tee I received for my birthday a few years later. One day I was walking home from elementary school, which, hold tight, y'all. Okay, where was I? Okay, one day I was walking home from elementary school, which required me to walk past the hangout spot where all the thugs cut school to smoke cigarettes and look at naked magazines. It said naked, by the way. I'm not reading it wrong. I was in one of my trademark dazes when the scent of menthol lace smoke alerted me to the fact that I was being followed. By the time I tried to run, it was too late. This crew surrounded me and demanded I give up the goose down. I thought of my mother's wrath. I thought of all the long lost jackets from the past, from the bootleg members only to the Sears tough skin with corduroy sleeves. I thought of my mother's frostbite warning and the days in middle room solitary confinement in my future. I refused. They beat it off me. I struggled so hard that while they got the body of the jacket, they couldn't get the sleeves. But what good are warm arms when you're walking home with the rest of your body fighting off cold? Of course, I kept it a secret. Boy, you should have told your mother they stole your coat. I would have snitched and sang like a canary. Sang like a canary, bitch. I wasn't embarrassed about the mugging as much as I was afraid of my mother's wrath when she realized that I had no longer had the item on which she had spent an entire $56. I knew she wouldn't buy the mugging story. I had to get it back before she would find out. So instead of telling her that I had been robbed, I told my two older cousins, Fred and Squeak, along with my best friend James Bond. They were already in junior high. They probably knew the culprits. A few days later, as I shivered home from school, avoiding the Newport Circuit shortcut, they yelled out to me to come over. They had found it. There, wearing my sleeveless goose down, was my next door neighbor, Freaky D. Freaky D wasn't big, but he was fearless. At 13, he was already smoking marijuana and drinking Coke 45. At 13, can you mute your TV, babe? 13, nigga, you drinking Coke 45 at 13? Oh my God. Brady said, not Freaky D. Child. Coke 45 is crazy at 13. That's fucking nuts. Apparently, he had been casing my goose down for months. Surrounded by my investigative squad, Freaky D swore that he had owned the coat for over a year. His friends, whom I recognized as the muggers, backed him up. They corroborated his story, insisting that he had had the coat for over a year. After a few minutes of interrogation, Double O, Fred, and Squeak bought his story and let him go. As they walked away, Freaky D let me know it wasn't over. Now, how the fuck they gonna buy his story and you got the sleeves to the damn coat? That's just dumb. I'm gonna remember this, Mikey, he yelled. Freaky D don't steal. It sound like your ass still alive, nigga. Freaky D. You call yourself Freaky D? Weirdo. The next morning, I was called into the principal's office. Sitting there was my mother, along with Freaky D and the vice principal of the Hartsfield Junior High School. With tears in his eyes, Freaky D recounted how I masterminded the plot to convince my friends to steal his jacket. As illogical and preposterous as it sounded to me, to the jury in the principal's office, Freaky D's testimony was perfectly plausible. I vehemently objected to Freaky D's lie, explaining that there was no evidence for him for this wholly untrue story. He was the real jacket thief. Unbeknownst to me, Freaky D had proof, which was why my mother was summoned to the school. Staring a hole into my soul, she reached into my book bag and pulled out the evidence that confirmed the true history of his goose down jacket, the sleeves of which matched perfectly. Now, see, had you had told your mother that these niggas robbed you, you wouldn't have had to worry about proving him wrong. It's stupid though. What you're about to read is a true story. The names have not been changed to protect the guilty. In most history books, America is colonized by European settlers. In chronicling this nation's past, historians recognize that English, Dutch, Spanish, and French colonists are human beings with different backstories, cultures, and motivations. We know the political incentives, economic concerns, and social mores that explain away the theft, violence, and genocide they committed against the savage silhouettes that we are too unbothered to name. The people and cultures whose blood water the stolen landscapes are usually dehumanized by simply remaining anonymous. The stolen Africans are not Akon or Nyamwezi, they are just slaves. The various indigenous nations who were extinguished over the Oseti, Sakowin, or even the Iroquois are just Indians, Native Americans, indigenous people. Yet somehow the states and colonies that replaced them have borders, legislatures, and distinguishable figures. Black as fuck history does not upset the timeless tradition of American scholarship. It uses the same scholarly conventions to which we have become accustomed to make sure the reader isn't disoriented by a new historical standard. This book recognizes the English, Dutch, Spanish, and French land thieves are just white people. While it may sometimes seem abrasive, confrontational, and even dismissive, this book recognizes that the only difference between a burglar and a settler is who writes the police reports. In fact, the only difference between the black as fuck version of history and the way America's story is customarily recounted is that whiteness is not the center of the universe around which everything else revolves. While this book does not seek to deify whiteness, it does not obfuscate the flaws of black heroes. In this history, Martin Luther King Jr. is a human being who is sometimes afraid. Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois are rivals, but their ultimate goal is the same: to get free. In this book, enslaved Africans are not victims. They are warriors from the Ashanti Kingdom and the founding fathers of the Gullah culture and the creators of America's first democracy. And while this book is not the complete history of Black people in America, it acknowledges that too much has been stolen for that to ever exist. This book In this book, there is no America. In this book, the country we know as the United States is just a parcel of land that was stolen and repurposed as a settler state using European logic and the laws of white supremacy. This book is a story about the strong arm robbery. It is about family and friends trying to recover what was stolen. It is the testimony and the verdict that a jury of our peers has never heard. I can do that in my history. Freaky D taught me. Years later, I asked Freaky D about that jacket. He acknowledged that he knew it was stolen when he bought it from thieves. According to Freaky D, the guys strung him along about the sleeves for days, promising that they would eventually be delivered. He claims he didn't know the coat was mine until Fred, Double O, and Squeak confronted him about it, which is when he came up with the plan to get the sleeves. And because all history is infused with the historian's values, in Freaky D's version of history, receiving stolen property doesn't make him a thief. Like Freaky D, America don't steal. This is the black as fuck history of America. This book is the sleeves. Well, how'd you like that little introduction? Well, you learn a lot in a few pages, huh? How are we feeling? Are we okay? All right. Let's see. How many chapters are we going to read? We'll stick to one chapter for now. At the end of each chapter, there are some questions. So we'll see. They give you a unit review. This kind of book should be used in school, but of course, it is on the banned book list, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I hate that for us. But again, I ask you, how are we all feeling? I'm legit asking. Brandon said, we're feeling good. Well, good. We got some more to read. So the introduction of the book is set up more like, a telling of the author and how he came into the information that he's going to tell us later. And I like the way he prefaced it. In this book, he basically is telling you how he learned about history through the eyes of Black people, how he learned through Black artists who told fictional stories as well as Black artists who told their stories. What's wrong? Yeah, you could put that in there. I forgot I had it. Yeah, you could put it in there. Hi, mommy. You could put some in there and put some in the one in my cup. What's in that bowl? Mom, the baked chicken. She made me baked chicken. Mm-hmm. You said you didn't want to fry chicken, so after when you bake it, you put it on the side for you. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, good. Thank you. All right. So it's a pretty interesting read. And I like how he equated the theft of his coat to the theft of America, and how the narrative is always changing depending on who tells the story. It's very interesting. So we're about to get back into it. All right. I need to get my light so I can see, child, because I can't see. I have a reading lamp that helps me see the words on the pages better. It doesn't help me not stumble over words so much. So we'll get into it. Okay. It said it's Black History Month. Peace to the original woman, the Black woman, the mother of the civilization, the queen of the universe. She is the portal of life, peace, shorty. Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. Supreme 215, that was nice. I appreciate you, my brother. Are y'all ready to get back into the book? We're getting ready to start with chapter 1. We read the intro, and just to give you guys a quick run through of the intro of Black as Fuck History is very simple. It explains how the writer came across all of the information that he's learned about America's true history, or more specifically, Black history within America. And then he talks about how his family, he was raised in a home where there was a mini library in the middle of the home. They were able to sit down and read and learn to play cards and talk to each other and really just absorb as much information as possible through this small library that was in their home. He also was homeschooled for the first couple of years of his academia. So a lot of what he learned came from his mother and the books that she chose. But their library grew into this massive entity that he absorbed so much information from W.E.B. Du Bois to Zora Neale Hurston, all of the literary loves of Black history and Black culture. He was able to see the world through their eyes instead of seeing it through the eyes that America wanted you to see. And because of that, the veil for him has always been lifted. And he understood perfectly what America wanted us to see and what we also knew to be true, which is what he meant by W.E.B. Du Bois and his ideal of Black people having to see the world through a double lens. We have to live with a dual consciousness. And that's not metaphoric, it's actually true. This is why you hear Black people telling you that we have to have conversations with our children that are different. This is why you hear us talking about how we should move, act, walk, talk, sit, and stand in certain areas. This also applies in modern era when it comes to code switching, because the way we talk, act, walk, stand is often criticized and scrutinized. So we have to present ourselves in a particular way with the mask. And then when we are around more common people, we're allowed to be our true selves. That is what W.E.B. Du Bois meant by a dual existence. He just said it in a more eloquently way. Are we ready for chapter 1? Chapter 1 is called Earth, Wind, America. I have an uncle named James, and for the most of my life, I had no idea his name was James. To me, he was Uncle Junior. I had an Uncle Junior on both sides of my parents' family. So this is not uncommon for Black people, honestly. James Harriet Jr. was alternately a salesman of marijuana, a Black Panther, a Vietnam veteran, and a trusted deacon in his church. He knew things, a lot of things, like how to use a bandsaw or bait a hook with a live worm. He was infinitely more complex than that. But to me, at age 10, that was the essence of my Uncle Junior. One sweltering summer day, I was visiting his house, which sat on a pond with actual peacocks running around in the yard. A pond with peacocks in it. That must have been amazing. I would love to see peacocks. I love peacocks. Playing outside with my cousin. He asked Uncle Junior for some water, and he made us stand on the porch and drink it, ensuring that we were not committing the ultimate sin of black households, running in and out that door. True. When he collected those drinking glasses, I remember looking through the screen door, watching him put a record on the turntable. I can never forget the music that came out. He said their names were Earth, Wind, and Fire. I want to say that Earth, Wind, and Fire is the greatest band in history, but there might be white people reading this book, and I wouldn't want to cause any Beatles fans to have a conniption. They'll be all right. I honestly don't know what a conniption is, but my Uncle Junior said it a lot. All I know is that it is a medical emergency that is nearly as dangerous as a hissy fit. It's a fair assessment of what a conniption is. It's like a conniption is the equivalent to a crash out. I hope that makes sense. All right. I had to make an adjustment on my little book, child. Okay. Let's get the light over there. Very good. It's the equivalent to a hissy fit, which is the deadliest kind of fit. But this is not the time for all that. This is the time for understanding that Earth, Wind, and Fire is basically Jesus-less gospel music. I'm willing to bet you weren't aware of just how many Earth, Wind, and Fire songs you know, because they are ubiquitous as church hymns. And to top it off, they had three elements of all great black music. Number one, they wore jumpsuits. All great music acts must wear jumpsuits. Now, if some of y'all are really young and you don't know what Earth, Wind, and Fire look like, let me give y'all a visual. Okay. But Earth, Wind, and Fire, they was the goats. Okay. They was out here in these streets. All right. Hold on. I'll show you what they look like. Gotta get the right picture, child. There we go. Okay, here we go. We're gonna put Earth, Wind, and Fire up here so you can see them. Yeah, my mic's still on, but this is Earth, Wind, and Fire. So we'll start over. There are three elements of all great black music. We're going to start off with number one. They wore jumpsuits. All great music acts must wear jumpsuits. It is a mandate passed down from the godfather of soul's backing band, the JBs. Since then, if you want to be great, there must be a point in your career where you must dress like a NASCAR crew that fell in a vat of sequins and rhinestones. Okay? You have to. Many people wonder why Andre 3000 dressed so weird, but I saw Outkast in concert last summer, and Dre dressed exclusively in jumpsuits, and I realized y'all won't let him be great. Andre 3000 is a dapper Dan. He can't help that he got style. Number two, falsetto. Prince, Eddie Kendricks, Michael Jackson, Philip Bailey. All great black singers must have an extra octave. That is reserved for the Holy Ghost and heartbreak. And number three, a horn section. Now listen, I don't care what kind of music you are playing. The fact is, everything sounds better with the horn section. Everything. Everyone since the beginning of time knows it. Ask Joshua how he brought down the walls of Jericho. Ask a soldier what instrument he once played in his funeral. Ask Jesus what sound will signal his return. Y'all want to take a guess at what that sound is? Uncle Junior loved Earth, Wind, and Fire, which of course meant that I became obsessed with Earth, Wind, and Fire. And according to him, the only proper way to listen to the elements was on vinyl. Of course, he owned compact discs and cassettes. A compact disc is a CD, child, if you didn't know. And even had an 8-track tape player. But for my eldest uncle, Earth, Wind, and Fire albums should only be played in their purest form from beginning to end. Luckily, my favorite EFW tune was the second song on the first side of the album. That's the Way of the World. Oh, I love that song. That's the way of the world. I love that song. Earth, Wind, and Fire got some bops. Oh, love it. Love it down. If you are black, the answer is yes. If you ever been to a cookout, the answer is yes. If you have an aunt who owns a leather miniskirt or a leopard print blouse, the answer is yes. The question is, have you ever heard that's the way of the world? And yes, we all have. Everybody's heard that's the way of the world. Brandy said the reasons that we're here, she loves reasons. That's her favorite song. I like a lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire, honestly. If you have ever smelled incense burning in a room with a ceiling fan, the answer is Yes, to this day, every time I hear it, I remember what joy sounds like, what love tastes like, what home feels like. All of a sudden, I'm a kid again, standing on my uncle's porch, listening to my aunts tell stories through the screen door while my Uncle Junior explained the way of the world. Perhaps the only thing my Uncle Junior loved more than the group he called the Elements was correcting people's stories. Whenever my family members gathered, the children would usually sit on the floor while the aunts entertained each other with their stories stretched back generations. And without doubt, every single time somebody got creative with their version of an event, Junior was there to make sure the truth was told. When my mother recounted the tale of the time Uncle Junior brought home a skittish black cat and hid it in the bathroom closet so my grandparents wouldn't know about it, and how that cat went on to leap out of the middle of the night and nearly claw her to death, Uncle Junior reminded her that that cat was technically more of a midnight gray, and in reality, it barely scratched her. When my Aunt Marvell delighted us with the story of how my grandfather saved an entire family from a blazing house fire, he would interrupt to point out that it was mostly smoke and very few flames. He would eventually take over the story and tell it with the less hyperbole, yet he would still somehow make this his version the more interesting one. He was a living and breathing fact checker, a human footnote with impeccable storytelling technique. It was his passion. Uncle Junior wasn't necessarily a killjoy either. He was just someone who was also concerned about the fidelity of the family stories, as he was about imparting the history of the sound of God's house band. Knowing this, I would sometimes use this particular idiosyncrasy to endear myself to him. If Uncle Junior wasn't at a family gathering, I would call him up after and regurgitate the stories back to him while he made his corrections. I trusted his versions would be the definitive version and more interesting. But truthfully, I didn't really care about the family epics as much as I enjoyed hearing him attempt to rectify the misinterpreted facts. Not only was it hilarious to me, but it gave me a chance to have one on one time with my uncle. This ongoing habit didn't just strengthen my storytelling muscle and inform me about my family, it also taught me not to trust anyone's version of history unless I corroborated it with an independent source, which, ironically enough, is the same method I use to learn the story of America. The true origin of America is intriguing enough without embellishment. A tale that includes cannibalism, cross country adventures, and the type of brazen incompetency that almost doomed this experiment to thievery. But of course, to save face and maximize profits, the story was revised until we ended up with the swashbuckling blockbuster that we now know, filled with idealistic, barrel chested white saviors who immaculately conceived a brand new kind of democracy with nothing but a few muskets and an abundance for caucasity, sprinkling in a few pilgrims, a handful of savage Indians, and for diversity's sake, a few black characters who learned the value of hard work through 400 years of free labor, and you've got yourself a hit. The account of America's creation, you probably learned, starred a group of Englishmen we now call Jamestown settlers. In the safe for work fairy tale edition of the history of America, the English were a mighty empire who forged a new nation out of clay and ingenuity. But had my Uncle Junior lived back then, he would have been like, those guys, mighty? Nah. During that time, these so called adventurers had garnered an international reputation for being unsuited for manual labor, let alone planning a new society. Not y'all was weaklings. Oh, for shame. Do not obtain your slaves from Britain, wrote Roman consul Cercio, because they are so stupid and so utterly incapable of being taught that they are not fit to form part of the household of Athens. This incompetency would create the need for a transnational human trafficking. There are footnotes in this book that tells you where he got this from. So he is corroborating his history. Just want to make sure you knew that. Back to the incompetency. This incompetency would create the need for a transnational human trafficking infrastructure, as well as a reasonably believable cover story to justify the intergenerational dehumanization and theft committed by these so called enlightened ones. By the late 16th century, England and Spain were beefing over which version of Christianity was best when James I ascended to the throne of England in 1603. James, a Protestant, was intent on thwarting Catholic aligned Spain's global domination by getting in on the rapidly growing colonizing industry. In 1534, the English Parliament declared that the country had no superior under God, other than the British King Henry VIII, who had split with the Catholic Church so he could marry his side piece, which is true. That is absolutely true. I believe it was Anne Boleyn he was trying to marry, but I could be wrong. Anyways, so while the Catholic Church had served as an early investor for Spain, Portugal, and other white empires, Britain didn't have access to the church's seed money. Without the colonizers' version of Shark Tank, the arrogant members of the British elite did not fret. The other countries may have had a head start, but the English were not burdened by faith or religion. They were free to colonize in the name of a superior higher power. Cash money. When Queen Elizabeth I granted charters to colonize the North American territories unclaimed by Christians, the first four attempts failed. To be fair, the only reason they failed was because of disease, lack of food, lack of navigation skills, and the inability to convince the natives of English superiority. No one knows what happened to the fourth attempt, aptly named the Lost Colony of Roanoke. Roanoke. They probably got, well, never mind. But the English kept trying. They truly believed they were going to find the Garden of Eden with trees dripping with diamonds and streams filled with gold. There was no way they could have leave all those untold riches to the people who lived on that land. They had to have it. It would be easy to upend the story of America's founding by turning these colonizers into villains. However, the men who hopped on the Susan, Constant, Discovery, and Godspeed, the three ships chartered by King James Joint Stock Virginia Company of London, were too incompetent to be characterized as evil. Although they had never mined, farmed, or built anything in their home country, these clowns were still confident that they could sail across the ocean and conquer an entire continent, sight unseen, of all the conquering cultures in the world. The English were perhaps the least qualified colonizers, but to their credit, they were gifted in the area of cockiness, of nothing else. Aside from securing the rights of Virginia's gold, silver, and copper mines, the first charter of Virginia charged the colonizers with propagating of Christian religion to such people as yet live in darkness and miserable ignorance of the true knowledge and worship of God, and to bring the infidels and savages living in those parts to human civility. In other words, they were going to rob these people of their land, culture, and history. But in exchange for an entire civilization, the Brits would introduce the natives to white church music and hats with buckles. Seems like a fair trade-off, no? On April 26th of 1607, the 104 English barbarians arrived at the gates of the Tensacamaca, a territory in modern-day Eastern Virginia, accompanied by 31 individual governed tribes. Interesting. Because they lacked basic geographical fluency and had an enormous amount of hubris, the whites considered the entire east coast of North America, from Canada to Florida, to be Virginia, and declared it their own, ignoring the fact that there was an entire functioning civilization there. With a government that wouldn't go down without a fight, This area was ruled by King. I cannot say this man's name correctly, so I'm going to call him King W just to be respectful. This land was ruled by a king, King W, whom the whites called Powhatan, which was actually a term used to describe W's collective community. For future reference, we will not erase the history and culture of people by using the white version of the indigenous people's names. Plus, white people are actually terrible at naming things. These footnotes are hilarious. But I don't want to destroy the indigenous people's names, and I know it sounds bad that I'm not even trying, but I am trying to pronounce it, and I just don't want to mispronounce it. So if I mispronounce the name or I don't say it right, please forgive me. I'm really not trying to, but I'm trying to sound it out so I can say it right, and I'm just gonna butcher it. I know I am, and my apologies ahead of time if I do. Anyway, as soon as he received word that some pale people were near the shore, King W dispatched a welcoming committee to greet them with 20 or 30 arrows, as he had done with all previous boatloads of suspicious looking people lurking around his neighborhood. After a brief melee, King's boys retreated and decided to wait to make their move. From the moment the king and his crew had encountered these pale faced Philistines, the natives could tell there was going to be trouble. First of all, this group was going to struggle with food. The mid-Atlantic region was going through the worst drought that had been experienced in 700 years. Hold tight, y'all. What you say, Brandon? Let me see. She said, I give up after 3 tries when it comes to figuring out names. I really don't want to butcher it. They're not like super unique names, but it's just sometimes hard for me to pronounce names, and I'm trying to sound it out, and I just don't want to mess it up and say something stupid. So I'm just gonna leave it at King or King W. And I'll refer to them as natives or native indigenous people because I don't want to butcher their names. All right, going back to the last line. It says, first of all, this group was going to struggle with food. The mid-Atlantic region was going through the worst drought that it had been experienced in 700 years. Not to mention their arrival in late April meant it was too late to start planting any crops anyway. Additionally, the spot chosen by the Jamestown colonizers was the worst real estate in the area. Although the brackish waters surrounding the settlement on 3 sides offered protection by June, they realized that American mosquitoes had hit different. They also didn't seem to know how hygiene works. Child, washing your ass is important. Just ass swimming in filth. That's disgusting. They also didn't seem to know how hygiene works because for some reason they figured they could relieve their bowels in the same place they gathered their drinking water. Pardon me? So let me get this right. You travel your ass all the way from England to the Americas, land in North America, and decide that, you know what, we're going to colonize the entire eastern seaboard. And you get there, there's a massive drought. You can't farm because you're out of farming season. And you decide that you're going to shit where you drink. You are going to shit in the water that you are going to be drinking to stay alive. That makes a lot of fucking sense. Wow. Your idiocy is ridiculous. What? My God, today. Jesus. Let me read that line again. They also didn't seem to know how hygiene works because for some reason they figured they could relieve their bowels in the same place they gathered their drinking water. Perhaps the Virginia company's biggest mistake was who they sent to conquer the new land. Unlike Portugal and Spain, who had a head start in the white people discovering things trend, England was relatively new to the colonizing game. Portugal and Spain had a class of explorers and soldiers whose full time job was conquering. Instead of sending uncouth conquistadors, the British sent wealthy Protestant aristocrats to stake out the area, led by Christopher Newport, or Captain Christopher Newport, and whose ranks included Captain John Smith, a celebrated mercenary who had been wounded in battle, captured, and sold as a slave. As part of the British expedition, Smith was arrested for treason and imprisoned until the ships landed at Virginia, and the crew unsealed the orders naming him as the leader of the colony. Despite him having no experience at farming, governing a colony, or leading people, things were off to a wonderful start. Even the few laborers among the group were not accustomed to living off the land, which set the venture capitalists turned pioneers up for disaster. In his journey, in his diary, Smith lamented that there were few bars, beer houses, or restaurants in the newly stolen land, forcing adventurers to survive on boiled water and a pint of wheat and barley per day. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Most of their grain supply had been stored on the ship for 20 weeks, providing an albeit unorthodox source of protein, the worms that had infested in the food stores. Ew, you got. Oh my god. This is some wild shit. In another bout of hubris, when Captain Newport dropped them off and told them he'd be right back with supplies, the group seemed to forget how long that journey took and didn't even bother to try and plant crops. The hapless British aristocrats sat clueless in a new land withering away in the Virginia winter, while the Powhatan nation luxuriated nearby in their heated homes. The Powhatan had actually figured out central heating. That's fucking cool. They had central heating back then. That's amazing. While Newport was on his journey back, Smith was out discovering stuff that had already been discovered. When one day he found himself surrounded by 200 Powhatan men. Thinking quickly, Smith attempted to use his native guide as a human shield, which didn't go over well with the guys with arrows. Smith was shot in his thigh a little, captured, and taken back to King W's land. Paramount Chief W arrived at the interrogation session in style, wearing pearl necklaces, a fur coat of raccoon, not raccoon, and an entourage of advisors and young women, each a great chain of white beads over their shoulders, their heads painted in red, and with such a grave and majestical countenance as drove me to admiration to see such state in a naked savage. King W served Smith a heavy brunch and decided to let him go. As long as the white men kept their distance, the chief of chiefs believed the two groups could coexist in peace, which was a strange concept for Europeans. The natives had to be up to something, they figured. A theory advanced by Smith, who insisted that the natives were going to eat him until he outsmarted the king of savages and convinced W to let him go. But King W could see the inept immigrants were struggling, and he took pity on them. Oh, they were just being nice, and the colonizers took advantage of that. It's low key wish they didn't. Shit. Terrible thing to say. While he didn't know if their faces were so pale because of malaria, dysentery, or that poop drinking thing, the answer was all of the above. He decided to help the settlers out by sending over food until Newport came back from grocery shopping in England. Back in England, everyone was excited because Newport. Smith claims he was kidnapped, but he probably just didn't understand the natives when they read him his rights. And these are the footnotes that are at the bottom. And it says, and if you're wondering if he's somehow connected to the cigarettes, the answer is yes. No, this guy is the reason why we have cigarettes called Newports. Learn something every day, I guess. Back in England, everyone was excited because Newport had returned with bags of gold discovered by the Jamestonians. The investors figured that this whole colonizing thing was a great plan. Not only did the investors donate supplies, but 120 more laborers and settlers joined Newport for his return to Virginia. They were not exactly received by a party when they landed back to the shores. By the time Newport returned with the provisions, craftsmen, and a crew on January 1608. Let's go back because the date that he said they landed. They left for the Americas in April on the 26th of 1607. That means they didn't come back until the next year. They were gone for like 9 months. Did I get that right? April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. Ha! I was on the money. It was 9 months. Jesus. By the time Newport returned with provisions, craftsmen, and crew on January 2nd of 1608, 66 of the original settlers had succumbed to starvation, sickness, or the natives' arrowheads. Thankfully, Newport wasn't around when the Brits back home realized that the settlers' supposed gold was actually iron pyrite, literally fool's gold. Child, you've been tricked, bamboozled. Oh, I don't feel bad for you, idiot. You should have checked. You should have checked. All right, we're at an hour. I'm going to read some more to finish out the chapter, and then we're going to have a little chit chat. I shall return. We're going to take a little wee break. Okay, just a little bit. A little bit.
Still don't know my words, still stressing perfection. Let you all in my mental, got me looking too desperate. Damn, you ain't desired.
We are finishing up this first chapter of Black as Fuck History, written by Michael Harriot. And it's funny, I like the way he wrote it. We're going to talk about this first chapter and the introduction in a minute. I just want to get the chapter finished. And so, Ooh, there we go. Let's get into it. After they received the first shipment of supplies, the colonists went to work. Apparently, they hadn't learned a single thing about saving their rations, sorry. And like any intelligent civilized society, they once again ate all their provisions, returned to the meager living time they had just survived. You know how it is when people who live in a bad neighborhood start receiving government handouts. To avoid starvation, Newport and the colonists came up with the whitest plan ever created. They were going to go back to King W, the emperor of the not hungry people, and bestow on him the honor of becoming an English vessel or vassal. After all, who in their right mind would turn down the privilege of becoming an honorary white man? Yeah, King W, that's who. To avoid, there was only one problem with this genius idea. The king did not kneel for anyone. You don't become the president by kneeling. In fact, the king lived by two rules. He who keeps his head higher than others ranks higher. And he who puts other people in a vulnerable position without altering his own stance ranks higher. Meaning, bitch, I'm better than you. The whites didn't know what they had coming for them. After crowning the king, the settlers demanded more food from their new fellow countrymen. When the colonists informed the chief that he was now a subject of King James I, not only did the indigenous people end their welfare program, but the king's warriors surrounded the Jamestown settlement and warned the beggars not to leave their lily white gated communities unless they had some arrow proof vests. Unable to hunt, fish, or gather food without being attacked, the settlers were back to square one. Word got back to England that the settlement was flailing worse than Kenny G in an HBCU halftime show. Not only weren't they finding any gold, but when they ventured out into the countryside and climbed the highest hills of the area, they still couldn't see the Pacific Ocean. Yes, they seriously thought that they could find a path to Asia a few miles from their settlement. Jesus Christ. King James was so determined to save his investment that he issued a new charter for the Virginia Company, along with a fleet of 9 ships loaded with supplies and 500 colonists. It was the largest fleet ever amassed in the history of the country until they were separated in a hurricane. Oh, wow. And yellow fever and the London plague broke out aboard 2 ships. There were 2 more lost at sea. By the time the British re-up arrived in Virginia, the supplies were essentially gone, but there were more people to feed. Smith and the Jamestown governors had to instill a campaign of law and order to keep the desperate colonists from turning the English outer suburbs into a ghetto. Ooh, the ghetto! In October 1609, Smith was asleep on a sack of gunpowder when it accidentally caught fire, burning a 10-inch patch of his skin on his groin area. Don't act like you don't take afternoon naps on boats of combustible material. I'm just waking up from my dynamite siesta right now. Took a nap on combustible material and burned your crotch. You damn near burned your dick off, stupid. Jesus Christ. Fortunately, he was on a boat and jumped in the water where he almost drowned because he didn't know how to swim. Stupid. All right. Where were we? He jumped in the water. After his transport to England was delayed for weeks, John Smith left Virginia as an utter failure, with nothing to show for his work but a journal, a few stories, and charboiled genitals. After Smith's unfortunate weenie roast, King W. summoned Smith's replacement, John Ratcliffe, and 25 of Virginia's most important whites to a big dinner with the promise of more indigenous government handouts. At the banquet, Ratcliffe discovered that the food baskets were empty and that he had walked straight into a trap. That night, Ratcliffe was kidnapped, skinned alive, and burned at the stake. It was all part of the king's plan to rid his land of the pesky whites once and for all by doing what he should have done a long time ago: let them starve. With its shoddy leadership in shambles, Jamestown was doomed. As the third winter came upon the settlement, the newcomers were at an all time low, forced to eat leather belts, their pets, and eventually each other. Yes, that's right. Researchers have found evidence that the few remaining Jamestonians survived the period known as the starving time by murdering pregnant women and eating their own children. The Herald first Americans were cannibals. In May 1610, 142 survivors of King James's ill-fated fleet arrived in a ship that managed to build in Bermuda. One of the passengers, John Rolfe, had lost his wife, daughter, and all of his belongings in the Bermuda shipwreck. By the time he reached Virginia, all he had was a few tobacco seeds that he had collected in Bermuda. He had heard about the new trend of drinking smoke that was becoming popular in Europe and decided to plant those West Indian tobacco seeds. As it turned out, Virginia soil was perfect for tobacco cultivation. When Rolfe and the company landed, King W was still tripping. The number of Chief Rocca had almost successfully starved out the white invaders and still commanded a large native force. When the Bermuda ship arrived, in fact, only 60 of the hundreds of English colonizers were left. But one extremely savage colonist, Deputy Governor Samuel Argall, had a plan. Argall was the embodiment of pure evil, known for attacking French and Dutch settlements and claiming them for the king. When Argyle failed at capturing a settlement, he would just resort to Plan B: set fire to it, as he did with the Jesuit colony and a French settlement in present day Maine. Argyle first tried to force King W into submission by burning native villages to the ground. When that didn't work, he discovered the king's weakness was his daughter, Matoka. The white folk called her Pocahontas because, as we had established, they were terrible at names. In 1613, Argo kidnapped Matoka by luring her onto his ship. He offered to exchange her for English prisoners who had ventured outside the camp. When the king agreed, Argyle reneged on the deal and demanded more provisions. King W again agreed, but Argyle would never release his daughter. Instead, she converted to Christianity and was married off to Rolfe. It turns out white conversion was the plan that worked on the second try. King W told his warriors to chill out and gave Rolfe thousands of acres of wedding dowry. In 1614, Rolfe exported a few barrels of his first tobacco crop, and the English loved it. It was the first positive news from the Virginia Company since the fake gold incident in 1608. With its success evident, the question became, who would farm this new cash crop? The few settlers that remained were not quite the agriculture type, considering they could barely keep themselves alive. To solve the problem, Argyle took John Matoka to England for an investor relations trip in 1616. However, the trip was cut short when Matoka suddenly died of an unknown illness. Her tribesmen believe she was poisoned, while some historians think it was a respiratory illness or dysentery. My own research indicates it was. Michael Harriet is funny. He has a footnote in here that says his own research says that it was a lack of seasoning that Matoka died from. Sorry. Jesus. So dumb. Whatever the cause, Argyle brought the newly widowed Rolfe back to Virginia without a solid plan. Meanwhile, back in Virginia, the Chickahominy natives, who weren't under King W's Confederacy helped feed the lazy British settlers who still hadn't planted enough food to feed themselves. When King W died in 1618, the natives decided to stop offering government assistance to the settlers. Ending this welfare to work program would doom the unskilled English encroachers. They desperately needed help. The only thing they could possibly save the English colony would be an influx of immigrants who knew what they were doing. Once again, Jamestown was on the precipice of failure. The English investors were demanding their money, but King James didn't have it. Rolfe had land, but it was essentially worthless because he couldn't farm it. After a summer heat wave, colonists were preparing for a second starving time because investors were refusing to send more supplies until they got paid. In July 1619, the Virginia Company held its first legislative assembly. During the meetings, the assembly decided that if the company was going to survive, the colonists should probably grow enough food to feed themselves. Instead of using 75% of the land to grow tobacco while depending on the native welfare system, America's first white legislative body limited tobacco production to 25% of a plantation's output and decided to give away plots of land to investors. While this plan seems reasonable on its head, the truth was these fools still didn't know how to farm and hadn't even attempted to pretend. So they'd suddenly understand that and would be able to provide themselves was truly outlandish. There's a word for doing something over and over again and expecting different results. American. This America experiment was pretty much over with no food, no gold, and rumors swirling around their homeland about their people eating habit, where they would even where would they even find a skilled, hardworking people who knew how to build a country from scratch? Certainly not England. You heard what I said, what Cicero said. Yes, we heard what he said. Let me get that lamp back on there. Oh, come on. There we go. Then James Rolfe's homeboy showed up with some cargo that would save the bumbling British colonists from extinction. On October 12th or 13th of 1616, Spanish captain Manuel Mendez de Arcuna left Spain with a letter authorizing the private ship to transport kidnapped Africans from Africa to Veracruz, Mexico. Although the San Juan Bautista was only licensed to carry 200 enslaved people, Acuna left Luanda, Angola, with at least 350 stolen Africans. By the time the 115-ton vessel reached Jamaica, approximately 143 had died. Like most slave traders, Acuna had planned it this way. Human traffickers routinely packed their vessels to maximize profit. In Jamaica, he sold 24 young children and headed for Veracruz, where he declared he was carrying 123 humans as cargo. 60 were missing. Shortly before the San Juan Bautista arrived in Mexico, 25 Englishmen had a small boat had attacked it in July of 1619. After stealing 60 of Acuna's stolen cargo, they had split them between the 160-ton White Lion and the 100-ton Treasurer. The thievish Brits decided to head for the Virginia colony, where they had no choice of being arrested or no chance of being arrested or attacked. When the White Lion landed at Point Comfort in about the latter end of August, Virginia Governor Sir George Yeardley, along with the colony's supply officer, Abraham Piercy, negotiated a dirt cheap price for the ship's cargo, 20 and odd Negroes, in exchange for food and the best and easiest rates they could. And with that, the Jamestown Project was saved. This is what made the land worth something. The enslaved labor that was worth more than tales of gold and diamond trees. Now that they had cash cropped, abundant land, and people who knew what to do with it. The abject future failure of an experiment that transformed into an unprecedented success. But why Virginia of all places? Why would a smuggler bypass more successful outposts to go to a failing colony? How did they know they would be welcomed? In the rare case this story is told, it is cast as a tale of happenstance and coincidence, but of course, it is actually one of deception, trickery, and greed. When John Rolfe took his newly stolen wife to England for that investor relations trip, he traveled to England and returned to the colonies on a ship captained by the vicious Samuel Argo. As soon as they returned, Argo was summoned back to England to answer charges of cruelty against the colonists for running an international crime ring. To get back to England, Argo had to catch a different ride, as his ship was being captained by Argo's homeboy, a notorious pirate named Daniel Elfrith, who had essentially made a career out of stealing on the high seas. Elfrith had borrowed the treasure from Argyle and hit the jackpot by stealing the stolen Africans from the San Juan Bautista. 4 days after the arrival of the White Lion, 4 days after the arrival of the White Lion, Elfrith sold 2 or 3 Negroes in Virginia. He probably could have sold more, but he had to leave in a hurry, as Virginia's new governor, George Yeardley, recognized the ship as a well known pirate vessel and ordered him to leave. Yeardley couldn't resist purchasing a few low priced human beings before giving him the boot, though. He just knew that it had to be quick. He didn't want his name sullied for dealing with pirates. Virginia didn't need that kind of trouble. Less than a year later, in March 1620, the Virginia colony's first census recorded 17 women and 15 men who were not Christians in the service of the English. One of them showed up in later documents as Angela or Angelo, a Negro woman. Angela arrived in America as a passenger of Daniel Elfrith's thieving, enslavement, kidnapping, village burning, and self contained criminal enterprise, the Treasurer. It was the ship Argo used to kidnap Matoka and burn native settlements up and down the coast. It was a stealer of souls that was fueled by greed and theft, and it is as American a thing that ever existed. Here in the folds and creases of the tale of pilfered people is where America truly lies. That other mythical history that is shared in schools is as real to me as is Atlantis or Oz. It is as gargantuanly a tall tale, refined from years of incessant yarn spinning that has been sugar-coated and stuffed down throats. But in the middle room world built by Du Bois and his progeny, we ask the real question to America. How does it feel to be a stealer of men? Or is that the way of the world? That's the end of chapter 1. How are we feeling? Are we feeling good? Ignore those idiotic questions in the comments because we're not going to entertain stupidity. It's Black History Month. How's everybody feeling? If you feel like it, you can comment in the comment section below. If you don't, I totally understand because you're just listening. But I have a few questions for you if you don't mind answering. Question number 1. And this is a multiple choice question, so let's see if you get it right. What is the difference between a settler and an invader? A, the number of guns you bring to an invasion. B, it depends on who's telling the story. C, invaders become settlers after they vanquish the people they invaded. Or D, there are 2 different spellings. Woo! To me, it depends on who's telling the story. 2, who were the first Americans? The people who were living in the place when the name America was invented. B, the people who came up with the name America but had never been there. Or C, the people who had united their states in the place called America. Or D, white people. You know, that question is kind of loaded. I don't think natives and indigenous people like to identify as Americans, but this is their land, and that's what is being called at the current moment. Me personally, I would say that's a unique question, but for me, I would say that it would be white people because they're the ones who were calling it America, as far as I know. Number three, rank these savages from least civilized to most civilized. People who fought to prevent invaders from stealing their land. B, human traffickers. C, people who stole from human traffickers. D, people who bought stolen land or stolen property from human traffickers. And cannibals. There's only one redeemable quality in this entire list, so we're just gonna move on. Activity. Greetings from your future colonizer. As Director of Corporate Communications for the Virginia Company of London, you are tasked with writing a one-page letter introducing the British colonists to the King. As truthfully as possible, explain the motives, plans, and intentions of your company in a way that is least likely to result in the native people putting an arrow through your chest. At least that's what you're supposed to do if you read this book. Me personally, I'm just not going to do that because one, I'm not going to be helping to colonize people, and number two, it's not my business. I'm only here for my people. That's it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have a question. How do we feel about the Black as Fuck history book? Are we liking it? Is it interesting? That was just the first chapter, and we've been here for an hour and 47 minutes. And I'm going to give y'all a little tidbit about the author so you can kind of get some understanding. And if you want to read the book, you definitely can pick it up over at Amazon. So the next time I read it, which will probably be next weekend, yeah. So if you want to read it with me, you can hear it and then you can, read along. It is currently available on Amazon and just about every format. Okay, you can get it in a hardcover format, which is what I have it in, and you can also get it in the. Are you like it? It's cool, right? It's an interesting point of view. It really is. I like the way he tells it. Like it's not so stuffy. Does that make sense? It's an easier read to understand history, So I like it. It's cool. I'm assuming you're referring to this person asking about White History Month. They said it's White History Month 11 months out of the year. I mean, fair enough. Hi, Rico. How are you? So, if y'all want to get this book, you definitely can pick it up. Yeah, he said, yeah, it's not like the Facts 500. Yeah, it's written in a funny, interesting way. And I like this, so I'm going to keep reading it to y'all. I'm going to do reading and chill next weekend as well, and we'll do it Saturday. I will remember Saturday this time. I promise. This past Saturday was just not my day. It just was not my day. Anyways, so this is the book. I will put the link in the description, in the comment section, and you can pull it up for yourself if you want to get it. It's totally up to you. Ooh, they separated the link, child. That's so rude. Let me delete this. Ugh. How do you separate the damn link? So dumb. Hold on. Let me get the right link so I can share it. Oh, that sucks. Copy link. Boom. Okay. So let me see if I can. There's a better link. There we go. Now I won't feel like it's 50 links in there. Okay. Rico said he's good. Donnie, oh, y'all was having a good old time over there on the sticks. All right. So this is where you can get the book. You can get it over on Amazon. They have it in so many different formats for you. You can get it in the Kindle version, which means you can read it on your phone or on your tablet. You can get it through audiobook, which I believe that Michael Harriot does his own audio for the audiobook. So you can do that. I have it on hardcover. You can get it on hardcover or you can get it in paperback. So you can do all of that for the Black as Fuck History book. Okay, so it's a good time. Okay, you'll love it. He said our main event was hard fought victory. I know you made it hard. I know you did. But y'all, I am so glad that y'all enjoyed this book with me because I am enjoying reading it. We are on the second chapter, and next weekend I'm going to try to get through 3 chapters so we can get up to like chapter 4. But right now, reading the introduction and the first full chapter, I was really happy with what I read. Did you listen, babe? Were you listening? Did you like the book? Mm-hmm. When I get done, you want to read it for yourself? Okay, cool. So, if you want to pick up Black as Fuck History, it is a book by Michael Harriot. Okay. And once we get done with Black as Fuck History, I am going to still be reading Black authors. So the next book we're going to read is a fiction novel by Jessica Cage. Okay. And I'm not going to tell you which one until we get started into reading it. But for now, Black as Fuck History is our girl, and she's giving what she had to give, honey. He said, no, it was more hard for him. Oh, Nachi was making it difficult. Root. Now, we learned about some music. If you don't know about music, Black people and music go hand in hand. Now, if you didn't know who the band Earth, Wind, and Fire was, they were heavily mentioned in the beginning of this book. This is Earth, Wind, and Fire. And he also mentioned a gospel artist by the name of James Cleveland, who was also a heavy influence in his family. So, you guys, if you want to learn more about these artists, you can go on over to Apple Music and Spotify and pull up their discography, and you can learn about them too. Black history is ever evolving, loves. We learn something new every single day. So not only did Disney try to glorify Pocahontas, little Princess Matoka was a child and married off to a grown-ass man and then murdered, well, allegedly, died in the custody of said grown-ass man, and no one knows how she died. They believe she was killed off by disease or whatever the case may be. It's just... Oh, wow. Oh my God, you hurt my feelings. It's very sad. Funny enough, I have 3 jobs and I have an education. Isn't that great? Huh? Education enough for me to have 3 degrees. Yeah, I'm highly educated, and I'm going to keep educating you and your dumbass cronies in this Black as Fuck History book. And you ain't going to stop me because you keep putting stupid comments in the comment section. Y'all keep finding new ways to be dumb. And this book just proves that you're an idiot. You're bred from idiots. Do better. Stop being your ancestors' fools. Do better. God. Hi, Nicole. How are you? We love you coming around these parts. Hi. Hi. How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. Those white men are dangerous, are they? Uh, if you look at history, you can understand why we're in the times that we are in. You will learn something if you just listen. Just listen. That was such a weird Super Bowl. Yeah. Yeah. Poor Princess Matoka. Poor princess. She was a little princess that they kidnapped and bargained for food and shit because they was too damn dumb to feed themselves. Ugh. So damn sad. And this better be the last time. The Super Bowl was interesting. Yeah. I'll say this. I love the Seahawks. The Seahawks, I've always loved the Seahawks. I mean, they have one of my favorite colors, so I'm always going to be drawn to them. And I just like the Seahawks in general as a team. So I wasn't mad that they won. It was the way that the game was structured. Their defenses were canceling each other out, but their offense wasn't strong enough to score anything until we got to the end of the game. It was like a light switch flipped on, and everybody was like, "Up, time to play." And I was like, "What was it at the half, Jared?" It was like 9-0. It was just field goals, and we're the Cleveland Browns. Right. Yeah, it felt like neither team gave a shit. Like they legit were just going back and forth with because their defenses were good. They had excellent defense. It was good defense, except for when the Patriots quarterback was getting sacked every time. That offensive line wasn't good, but their defense was solid. And I had to see Lewis sitting with Kim. Glad I did not see it in real time. Hey, Nicole, look, the man dating her, and it's very clear he seems to be going. He seems to be going around to find what he wants, because all of the women he seems to be dating are vastly different from each other. If it don't work out, he seems to know how to walk away from what he doesn't want. So I'm not mad at him. I'm curious as to why Kim, of all of the people he could have dated, I'm very curious as to what drew him to her. But I mean, if that's what he wants to do, that's his business. That Seahawks kicker needs a raise. Respectfully, I have to agree. He didn't miss. That man did not miss. And that miss could have cost him the game. You know what I'm saying, Jared? But he did not miss. He did not miss. Happy Black History Month. Same to you. Same to you. It just felt like a regular game. I think, but that Bad Buddy concert was everything. I don't care what nobody say. With the sugarcane fields everywhere, him climbing the light, the power poles, and everything was just visually stunning. And they had it all lit up. The whole stadium was lit up. You can see everything. Oh, it was so good. It was so freaking good. And everything was in Spanish except for Lady Gaga. Everything was in Spanish, and I didn't give a goddamn. I was sitting there about to cry. It was so pretty. Everything was so, it just felt so welcoming and so loving. Oh, I loved it so much. I loved it so much. It's talking about Lewis Hamilton. He's a Formula One driver, and he's got an extensive dating history, dating probably some of the most high profile women currently, and he likes to date older women at that. Nicole said he's such a bop. His ass should have married Nicole Scherzinger back when he was begging. She was begging him to, and he's not. He has had not a decent long term girlfriend since then. He dated Nicki Minaj for a short period of time, but I believe she kind of fucked that up for herself. And he's dated a couple other high profile older women, and now he's dating Kim Kardashian. Hey, it's his business, but I mean, he was young. He was younger than Nicole. So I mean, I know she wanted to get married because she was older, but I mean, sometimes the May December romances just don't work out, especially when you're dealing with somebody who's has a lot of money and they get cold feet easily. And he don't come from a broken family. He had a pretty decent home life from what I remember reading about him. So I don't know. Maybe he just needs to do a little bit of, self reflection. Anywhoosies, y'all. This book is fun. If you haven't read this book, go get it. You can go to Amazon and get it. You can go to Barnes and Noble and get it. If you don't want to give Amazon your coins, totally understand. I know you can buy it online. I think you can buy it at Michael's website. Michael Harriet. Let me see. He has a podcast. It's called Black as Fuck History, bitch. I might go listen to that podcast. Cause he's funny. Okay, so he doesn't directly sell it on his website, but you can get it through his site and it takes you back to Amazon. But if you don't want to buy it there, I'm pretty sure you can buy it at the Half Price bookstore. You can buy it at Barnes and Noble if you want to give your coins to them. And there's various other places you can purchase this book from if you don't want to get it from Amazon or Walmart or any of the other big marketplaces. Okay. So it's up to you, but I recommend this book. It's fun to read. It's not so stuffy in terms of how it tells history, and it just gives it to you real raw and unfiltered. You know what I'm saying? She said Nikki fucked that up because he actually liked her. Her ass could have been a high fashion F1 wag. I told you, I assumed that she was the problem. She had to be, because there's a pattern of behavior here that is starting to come out. And I just did a video to Donnie earlier today about Sir John, Beyonce's makeup artist, and how he refused to work with her after he saw how she treated and heard how she treated his peers, how she was like just disgusting to them. Like if she didn't like a lip gloss or a look, she would wipe her lip gloss off on people's clothes. I would have punched that bitch in her shit. There is no way with a bitch whose ass is filled with silicone and is walking around talking to me crazy and she's half my height, I would have knocked her Oompa Loompa ass the fuck out. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care about none of that shit. You're not going to disrespect me. I would have rather lost my job and my reputation than to let you disrespect me, ho. That's crazy. The kind of abuse they say that lady has subjected to makeup artists and hairstylists is fucking nuts. And if I was them, I would band together and sue that bitch for emotional distress and trauma. She would be paying money out her ass for the rest of her life. Because that's crazy. Nikki always finds a way to fuck up, so I'm not surprised. She's a fucking demon. I saw that too. We would have been fighting. I was like, I cannot believe that. And look, most of the time, people don't say shit about stars and shit because one, they don't want to be labeled as somebody who's going to tell the stars business, right? They want to be somebody who's reliable and can keep getting work. But Sir John don't have to do that. Okay, that nigga said, I got my livelihood. My money is built. I don't have time for you. I'm singing the blues on that bitch. And I dare somebody to come and tell me I'm wrong. I was like, oh no, honey. I didn't like that shit at all. She don't fuck up with shitty men, apparently. And that's the crazy part. The niggas that ain't shit are the ones you date, you lie down and are loyal to. That's there's something traumatic and wrong with her that she need to be unpacking in therapy. But I've noticed that a lot of artists are tortured, and she one of them. And that's not no excuse, but it will help you understand and explain the dichotomy of her, because you got to be crazy to be advocating for someone who has actively assaulted another woman. You have got to be crazy to be standing next to a man who shits his pants on the regular in a Depends diaper and cannot control his bowels, smells like fucking shit, and the shit is disgusting because all he consumes is Diet Coke and KFC fried chicken and McDonald's Big Macs on the regular. And not only do you get the slight or the massive hint of shit, you also have to smell his nasty, cheesy pores and disgusting BO and the cologne that comes out of his body that he puts on. You're standing there smiling next to him. Meanwhile, motherfuckers is getting ready to take your house. You are an undocumented citizen, which is wild in itself. No. No. She has no. She's an undocumented citizen. At least that's what I was told. And God, they have been alleging for years that illegal immigrants were voting in the election. And it is illegal for non-US citizens to vote in a national election. It's illegal. So my thing is, Nicki Minaj claims she was able to vote in the election.
How?
And I'm like, that is an absolute direct admission of committing an illegal act that can put your ass in jail if that's what you were doing. You cannot vote because you're undocumented immigrant at that. You are undocumented, which means you cannot legally vote in any election. So my thing is, it's wild because they went after 21 Savage with a vengeance, right? And deported him. But they left Nicki Minaj. They left her alone. And now it is public knowledge. It's factual that she is not a documented citizen. She's not a citizen of the United States. And I have yet to see ICE busting down her door to kick her ass out. I've yet to see it. And I would pay good money to see it. And then people get mad at me and they're like, how could you wish for somebody to do that to her? Because she has no care or regard for the people who are actually being killed, people who are being assaulted, people who are being trafficked and held in the detentions. Do you know they separate them people and their families? Some of the people have not seen their families. What about the first time when Trump was rallying up people and putting them in concentration camps? You remember that shit? Yeah. They still don't know where them people are. They still don't know where them kids are. They don't know where they are. That's why I always believe makeup and hairstylists, because they deal with a lot of shit and just take it. That's facts. That's facts. That's like Walker's low IQ ass supporting Trump was not even registered to vote. That was some wild shit. And they call his ass out real quick. Like, sir, you ain't even registered. You haven't voted in the last 5 elections. He was like, man, y'all niggas wild looking up. Like, nigga, yeah, we gonna look it up, bitch. Like, maybe you should shut the fuck up if you're not gonna vote. Like, don't be talking shit when you ain't even a part of the solution, nigga. We never had these issues when our presidents were deporting people. When other presidents were deporting people. No. People got deported back to where they came from. They didn't get deported or get wound up in concentration camps and didn't have records of who they were who their parents were. Y'all had people coming into the country for asylum. And instead of you documenting these people and ensuring you knew their names and where they came from, having people who spoke the language be able to understand what's going on, you immediately round them up into these camps. You round up undocumented immigrants into the camps. And then when you decided to let them go, they couldn't speak English. You didn't know where to send them because you didn't tell them where their mothers and fathers were because you don't fucking know. And now those same kids are lost in the system somewhere because of you. Like, damn. They flew them people back home and just called it a day. They've also detained so many people who are actual citizens. And that's the part that really bothers me, is that you are detaining people who are citizens of the United States, who have their documents and have their paperwork. These people are being held in facilities that are inhumane. Even for the lowest of low, the most disgusting criminals, they get beds. They get water, 3 meals at least 3 times a day. They get an hour to see sunlight. You feel what I'm saying? These people are in cages sleeping on the floor. And they're American citizens. All because y'all are running around here like power tripping little boys. It's very, very sad. Y'all using the internet as your means of being able to do things, and you get mad when people start telling the truth and reading books. Y'all want to come in the comments and talk about how black people were selling slaves too, and how white lives matter, and how white history, where's our white history month? Y'all are so weird. Y'all think that these talking points are going to piss people off. They don't bother me. They don't bother me at all. Because I know where it comes from. We just read it. I know exactly where it comes from. It comes from a place of insecurity and a place of fear. The same place that let your president tweet out a video, or Truth Social a video of the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, and Michelle Obama depicted as monkeys. It comes from a place of you not being able to exceed and excel. And because you can't, everybody has to come back down to the level of where you are. But you forget that most of us already have the education. And unfortunately, you can't take that from us. So I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to keep reading this book. I'm going to keep reading the history. We're going to keep looking at it. You didn't see the whole video. Aw. I need to see the whole video. Ooh, that's a big word for you, especially when you made it up. It's always the ones who hide behind their accounts to talk shit about other people. I don't need to see the video. I saw it already. I saw them depicting the Democrats as animals as well in the kingdom, the animal kingdom. You had senators as giraffes and everything else. I saw the video, but you made sure to put Barack Obama and Michelle at the end as monkeys, right? And then you come in here and you say shit like this. The donkey crats are at it again. It's because you have nothing else to do, right? Your intellect doesn't allow you to go home, sit down, read a book, and then maybe go to bed and wake up and go to work the next day and focus on feeding yourself and your family and taking care of yourself in these hard times. You have to come over here where I'm minding my business and reading to the people that actually want to hear it. I don't go to your page and ask you questions about what you're doing or go in the comments and troll because I don't care about what you're doing. But you're so butthurt by what I'm saying and what I'm doing that you're in my comments trolling me about something that you really don't give a shit about. You don't care. You're just in the comments trolling. So I'm going to give you your platform. Go ahead. Be my guest. Not the waste of the seed, child. It's been about 2 or 3 in here since I was reading. So since they want to have the opportunity to troll in the comments so bad, this is the one time where I'm going to give them that opportunity. Be my fucking guest. Go right ahead. There you go. Let's get more creative than that. Come on. Come on, let's see it. What? No more? Aw. That's sad. They don't want to play anymore, Jared. I wonder why that is. I wonder why they don't want to play anymore. Why don't they want to play anymore? It's just sad. White chocolate is disgusting, by the way. Hold on. Hey, what if y'all show my card? Where is it? Let me see. Did I miss it, Don? I don't see it. Y'all don't allow freedom of speech. No donkey crap will debate me. What are we debating? I have nothing to say to you, just as like you have nothing to say to me. You're going to have the same talking points you always have. And there's nothing to discuss when no one is willing to listen. And I can tell you right now, I'm not willing to listen to your same regurgitated bullshit that you've been saying over and over and over again. It's just out of everybody else's mouth. So, no, I don't want to debate you. You have freedom of speech. You're saying what you want to say in my comment section right now. So I'm not going to sit up here and bring you on my platform and go back and forth with you on the same bullshit. For what? You feel how you feel, and you're perfectly right to feel however you feel. I am not going to debate that. There's no reason to debate your personal opinion. I'm not going to do it. But you're more than welcome to put however you feel in the comment section. As I said, I gave you the room to say it. I let the moderators back off so they don't have to block you from saying it. You are more than welcome to say whatever you want. Be my guest. Serious question. Not trying to be disrespectful. Do you think your obesity has something to do with your views and opinions? That's smart. My obesity has something to do with my views and opinions. No. Anything else? I'm assuming that you follow me over on Instagram, yeah? Or you've been over here when I've talked about my weight. But here you are coming in here and trying to act as if you're going to preface it by saying, hey, this isn't about disrespect. I just want to know, does your obesity have something to do with your views and opinion? Really? Now, how would that have to do with my views and opinion? What does my weight have to do with Black people and our history and the current president and his history? What does that have to do with the other? Oh, it's your first time here? Really? Is it really? Mm-hmm. No, it's hiding. A moderator has to approve it. Oh, one of you moderators approve it. Is it racism? I don't think it's racism. Oh, well, I'm not going to debate someone who's hard stuck in this one position. I'm not debating that. We have nothing to debate. There's no conversation to be had. I told y'all that page was BS. Is it really? Well, welcome to the page then. Mm-hmm. That's the fat white man behind the PC meat. So small, he pissed on his balls. And it's definitely not your first time here. Racist and ignorant. Oh, wow. Is it racist? What's the definition of racism? Let's look it up. That way you can't be mad and say that I made it up. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think you guys understand the definition of racism. So just out of fairness, we'll share what the definition is. Yes? Okay. Racism is a noun, and it's prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism by an individual, community, or institution against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. Well, look at that. Doesn't say anything about the majority, which is what white people would represent, but sure, let's go off. I'll even make it big so you can see it. Typically one that is a minority or marginalized. Now, let's see what the word marginalized means, shall we? Marginalized is an adjective of a person, group, or concept treating as insignificant. Interesting. Now, let's go back to racism. There's prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism by an individual, community, or institution against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group. I am not attacking white people or all white people for how they are. I am talking about the people who did these atrocities in this book, the current administration who is over the United States right now, and those of you who voted for him. So if you fit that bill, then yeah, you're right. We're all in this together. You're just upset because you're no longer talked about in glowing terms. And the truth is coming out and you don't like what you're hearing. It is what it is, babe. I don't know what to tell you. Don't y'all got alien tentacles to stick somewhere? I guess not, babes. You can't debate, only make fun. What are we debating, love? You obviously don't care about what I'm talking about. You only don't like it because it doesn't paint you and your ancestors in a glowing light. And that's on you, babe. If you don't fit the bill of what I'm talking about, then you should be pressed about what I'm saying. In fact, you should be trying to not correct the history, but to also change the future. So these kinds of things don't repeat themselves. But if you do that, you see, you then would lose your privilege and your power. And we can't have that, can we? We don't have to debate anything. I'm not going to argue with you. I have no reason to. You're not hurting my feelings by claiming I won't debate you. You're 1000% correct. I'm not going to. This isn't an equal platform here. This is my platform. If you want to go over to your YouTube channel and cuss people out and call people everything you can think of, you're more than welcome to do that as long as YouTube allows it. I have no care in the world what you do on your corner of the internet. You're here in my corner, though, and you're expecting me to give you grace, and I'm not going to do that. Sorrows, prayers. That's all I have for you. If y'all feel that way, then why is you over here on this page? I don't know, dear. Imagine if it said white as fuck history. Well, you can always go read an American history book. I mean, it's there. You're offended by the title of the book. You're mad because the title of the book says black as fuck history. That sounds a little snowflakey, doesn't it? You're easily offended. Wow, it's interesting. You are not willing to debate the picture of the Obamas. I don't want to talk to you about that. Why? I didn't post the goddamn picture. Your president did. He posted a whole video depicting people as animals, including the Obamas. I don't have to debate that. That was done. There's no reason to debate any of that shit with you. For what? What are you going to explain to do? Explain it away? You're going to make it seem like it wasn't his fault? Fine. Do whatever makes you happy. You're just not going to do that on my platform. As I said, if you want to have that conversation, go over to your YouTube page. You have one. You're on it. If you can use StreamYard or any other source to stream over on YouTube, go right ahead. Have that conversation over there. Yell it to the rooftops if you must. I have no care or regard to have that conversation with you. For what? What's done is done. There's no debate in that matter. It is what it is. This isn't a democracy over here. It's a cheerocracy. And I'm overruling you. Sorry. Anyways, we're having a grand old time. I hope y'all enjoyed the book. I really do. It was a fun read, and we're going to finish reading it. Next week, we're going to try to read 3 chapters. So if you're coming over to actually listen to Reading and Chill, please do. It's a good time. Make sure you have your vittles. Get yourself a drink. You have a drink, get you something, get you a nice little drink. Get you something that's good and spicy so you can listen to the stories in the book. And we will also start reading another fantasy book after this one by another Black author, like I said, named Jessica Cage. And that's going to be completely different from the Black as Fuck history. It's going to be a fantasy world that she's built in this book that's awesome. I'm going to pick one of her books and we're going to read that. And then the next Black author we'll read after that is going to be a book called Thick. And it's about Black women and Black bodies. And I really want to read that book to you guys. So we're going to have a bunch of books being read. And in between that time, when Rico gets done writing his chapters, we'll finish up reading some of Rico's book. And we're going to have a good time on the weekends over here. Also, the next episode of Wrestle Eats is coming out. I'm going to be making Kurt Angle's favorite meal, which is spaghetti. Okay? And we're also going to throw in there a little Black history dish from Michelle Obama. We're going to make her apple pie cobbler. It looked really good, and I'm going to make it because it looked fire. So we're going to add that in there. for Sunday dinner, but we're gonna do a Wrestle Eats episode. That's gonna go up, I think, in about, because we gotta record it next week, right, Jay? So it'll go up. I'll have it edited. I'll try to have it edited by the week after next. So make sure y'all come back over here because there's a lot of content going. And I've been accosted in my DMs about WWE Unreal and everybody having my thoughts on it. And I promise I will finish watching it. I truly didn't want to watch WWE Unreal this season. I wasn't interested or invested. I did want to see what happened with Naomi, which I love that they let her speak her truth and have her moment, however minor it was. But I generally want to I generally didn't want to watch the entire season of Unreal, but y'all are mad at me because I haven't posted anything about it. So I mean, I'll do it this week. I'll get it done this week. And I'm also being yelled at to finish critiquing Becky's book, and I'm going to do that and get that up as well. So you guys, make sure that you rate, comment, and subscribe. I love you guys so much for coming over here and listening to me and listening to the book being read to you and learning some new things. I appreciate you guys more than you know. And if you want to hear more about Black as Fuck history, don't worry, because next weekend we're going to be reading some more of the book. It's going to be a fun time either way. Now that I've entertained you all enough, I'm going to get out of here and go to bed. I appreciate you guys for coming over here. I hope and pray that you guys come back. I will be back live on Monday to talk about wrestling because that's what I always do. And of course, on Saturday, we'll be reading Black as Fuck history in its entirety. Let me finish by going through the comments. She said, yes, we enjoyed Black as Fuck history over here, period. I only watched the first season out of curiosity. I don't really care for the WWE Unreal as a whole. I understand that. Some people like it. I liked it for the wrestlers and some of the backstage stuff, but this season I just wasn't interested in the heist. I didn't care about it and how they pulled it off. To me, that's an unnecessary thing to talk about, but they decided to do it anyway. I wish that it would have focused on John Cena's retirement for this season of WWE Unreal, because I feel like that would have been something that they could have kind of fleshed out, like why they had so many issues. What was the issue with the pivot? Like that seems to be more of an interesting conversation than Seth Rollins and them lying about him being injured so he can steal the belt from CM Punk. It was already self-explanatory. We saw how they did it. We didn't need to explain how they were able to keep everything under wraps. It just was unnecessary. Anyways, have a good night. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more wrestling content. Check out our merch and consider becoming a member for exclusive perks, special emojis, and members-only content.